My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com, and our special guest tonight is lead guitarist David K. Starr and lead singer Ed Gage from a new band, Wolf Chamber. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. And why don't we start off with, because many people know Dave, of course, from his other previous bands, Wild Star and Vicious Rumors, and talk a little bit about how you hooked up with Ed, if you don't mind, Dave.
It's good talking to you again, Jason. I think the last time we spoke was the Digital Dictator 30th anniversary.
That is correct. That is correct. We got a great response from it, and oddly enough, those guys kind of did a little reunion tour, but and you're still doing what you're doing, so that's great. So how did you and your singer there, Ed Gage, hook up? Could you tell us that story?
It was just like a lot of people in this day and age via the internet, and this was on Facebook. We've been friends for I don't know how long, maybe a couple of years, and I noticed that Ed's also an actor who's been pretty busy in Hollywood, getting more and more credits, and he was I think about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, he was doing some episodes of Westworld on HBO, and I just emailed him to congratulate him and said that's really exciting. Good job. I'm happy to see anybody get anywhere in the entertainment industry because it's so difficult. Not that I know anything about acting, but I'm assuming it's probably as difficult and more difficult than the music business. And I checked out some of the music that he'd been doing, and he had some demo tracks on YouTube. And there was one song that kind of caught my eye, and it turned out to be an earlier version of Forests of Darkness, the song that we just released as a single on Halloween. And I thought the song had some promise, but I thought it needed some work. And I wanted to approach Ed about maybe if I could do some, arrangement changing on it and kind of throw my 2 cents worth into it and my experience of all my years of doing this to try to make the song kind of come to life a little bit more. And I was a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure how he was going to respond. But we did a FaceTime, I think, chat, and that was about a year ago. And I just talked to him about some of my ideas, and he said, just go for it. And with everything else going on in my life, it just kind of took longer than usual, like things always do. 3 minute song took me about probably 6 to 9 months to really flush out to where I felt I was comfortable to approach Ed with what I felt was a finished version of how I interpreted the song would be. And I was really nervous because I didn't know how I didn't know what really. I didn't really know Ed that well. I mean, the funny thing is we've still never met to this day. We've only talked on the phone half a dozen times.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. But Ed liked what I did, and he said proceed with it. So we just ended up, sending ideas back and forth, and got it to the point where you hear it now. And I did all the guitars out here, my guitars, the lead guitars, and the rhythm guitars. Ed did his guitars and vocals out in L.A. London did the bass out here, and Josh did the drums in San Francisco. So it was definitely one of those long-distance musical adventures.
Wow, that's amazing. But, there's more and more projects like that these days. I mean, there's a band, I'm sure you guys know who Sean Peck is. He's a singer from the band Gage, and he's got about 3 or 4 other bands he's in, and he's in a band with the guitar player from King Diamond, and some of those guys live all the way in Germany, and they kind of record, like you said, from all different parts of the world. He's in a band, Death Dealer, same type of thing. They don't live.
He's in about 6 bands.
6 different bands. He's got something going on, and it's just more and more. And now, Ed, let me talk a little bit about your acting. Like, what came first? Were you always a musician, or did you always want to be kind of an actor, and you kind of do both, or what's the story there?
Well,
the thing. I actually have been playing music since the age of 8.
Yeah.
I started off I believe it or not, I started off in a school band in 4th grade as a clarinet player.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of interesting, and I'll tell you the reason I asked is there are a lot of guys out there that actually do both, and probably one of the most famous guys doing it these days is Johnny Depp, who of course a lot of us first came to know as a great actor that he is, and doing all those great Pirates of the Caribbean movies and all the other great movies he's done. He's now got this band with Alice Cooper that they call Hollywood Vampires, and I was quite surprised to see not only what a great guitar player he is, but he did a cover on the album of David Bowie's song Heroes, where he's singing lead, and I was just amazed, like what a great singer and guitar player was. And I've been reading stuff about him recently, and he's like, the movie thing kind of just hit, but I always really wanted to be more of a rock star. This is what I'd rather be doing this than actually making the movies, but that's what I had the success with first.
And that's the thing as well, Johnny Depp is really amazing at what he does, both as an actor and a musician. And I saw him with the Hollywood Vampires back in May, and those guys, they blew it off the roof. And even when Steven Tyler came out as a guest, it was just insane. But it was funny because, it's kind of like that, because I like doing music and acting just as equally. I can't really choose which one I like the most.
Yeah.
But I started acting when I was 17, much longer after I had been playing music. And acting was something that kind of fell in my lap when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I actually was approached to be the Joker in a fan-made Batman film because I had
wow. Yeah.
Because I had the laugh for it at the time. I don't know if I can laugh like that anymore.
Yeah.
But it all just kind of happened like that, and that's and then 2.5 years ago is when I made the choice to relocate to Los Angeles from South Florida, where I was living previously.
Yeah.
And even before I got to Los Angeles, I was working on some stuff. It still hasn't seen the light of day yet, but we have some recordings. But I worked on some stuff with some previous members of Yngwie Malmsteen, actually.
Wow.
And anyways, getting into it, I also want to try to be able to bring the music and acting into one thing.
That's what I was going to.
Actually doing it.
That was going to be my next question, because I know a lot of guys that were a lot of these guys that were into '80s rock bands back in the day. A lot of them are now doing stuff like in television and movies, getting their music in there and producing other people, and getting their music in some of the soundtracks and the movies and the TV. And a lot of people are making a lot more money than even being in a touring band these days.
Well, yeah, and that's the funny thing, because the one way bands especially make money today is having their songs in a movie.
Yeah.
And that's something that's actually something that Dave and I have talked about, is trying to work on some music that we could possibly get into a movie soundtrack or something like that. Definitely.
And let me ask you guys, because we got the one track, and this is a kind of a song like you guys were saying that was originally Ed's song, and you reworked it together, and so you got this one little baby, and people are responding to pretty favorably. You just had kind of one little hater there, and that's, you can't please everybody. But so my next question is that led you guys to kind of hey, let's continue to write together and see what we can come up with?
Yeah. We just got some things on the plate right now. I took some time out from working on the new Starr album that I want to have out in December, a year from now.
Oh, cool.
London and I have to finish the new Starr album. Ed's got some stuff he's working on now. So, it would probably, to release some new music, it would probably be sometime later this year or the next year. Just with everything that's on the plate right now for both of us. But it all has to start somewhere, and I think this is where we started.
And even if this is just a recording project for now, even as busy as you may be finishing up the Starr album, and Ed's working on his other projects, in the meantime, if you guys were to write or record a song or two more, you'd be able to get it out on the internet. You don't have to initially wait till you're ready to release a full-length CD, because that's what more and more people are. doing these days.
That's true. Or we could end up, getting some music placed in a movie or TV. And so, and generally speaking, when going from experience, when I do these WildStarr albums, and this is going to be the fourth one, I have a tendency to get done a lot earlier than London does, because the vocals take up a lot of time. So the album may not come out till December, but I could foreseeably be done with the album in June. And that would free me up with some time to work on other things, like doing some more stuff with Ed.
Now Dave, I'm glad to hear that, because the last time we did talk, at the time you were telling me that you didn't know if WildStarr would be released any more albums. You were like, well, we kind of put out these three. We've made our little statement with these three albums. I mean, that was your, I guess, feeling at the time. So I'm really happy to hear that you decided, no, we're going to carry on with WildStarr. Talk a little bit about that, that choice to do that, because I think I'm glad to hear that, anyways. That you guys are carrying on with that.
Well, it's difficult doing things the way that because we don't have a traditional band. It's London and I doing everything ourselves in the studio, aside from Josh doing the drums back in San Francisco. And it's not easy to do all the guitar. I do the job of three people in the band, play two guitars and bass, and write all the music, less the lyrics and the melody, which London does all that stuff. But it's every time I've done one of these albums, I say I'm not going to do it again. Excuse me, because it's so draining. But every time I do one, and then I'm thrilled with the way they turn out, and everybody loves it. So, and I say, okay, well, let's do this again. And then after I do the second one, I say, I don't know if I can do this again. And then I went through the same thing again with the third one. But I have 10 or 11 songs musically written for the new album, which London's working on lyrics for, so I think it's safe to say we'll have at least one more. I think after this fourth album, it's not the band. I mean, London and I are married, but I think we were talking about maybe just doing something different, kind of like we did, like London and I worked together on this track with Ed. So just because we may put out 4 albums with WildStarr and then stop doesn't mean we're going to stop playing music. It's just, I've talked to Vinnie Moore, my old guitar player from VR, who's been at UFO for the last 10 years, about doing some stuff together. So, it would be kind of cool to play with other people and do other things outside of WildStarr. So that's kind of one of the reasons how this whole thing with Ed came about.
Oh, wow. And Vinnie Moore, he's always been one of my all-time favorite guitar players. And I also feel, he got like a huge response with one of his solo albums. I think it was called Mind's Eye, and he's been kind of under the radar. And I say under the radar because, like you mentioned, he's been in UFO for like even longer than Michael Schenker ever was. And but at the same time, and he even played with Alice Cooper. And he just recently released a new solo album, so I think it's great that he's still out there doing what he's doing, because he's one of those guys from back in the '80s shred guitar days that is still doing it. Yeah.
We stay in touch through Facebook all the time, and he actually extended his services to do some guitar work for me on some upcoming stuff. So. He's definitely interested, and that's really cool. He's a good guy, and he's a great guitar player.
Yeah, and now you mentioned like the thing with WildStarr, as successful as it has been, that it's mainly you and London and a handful of other people. Now, like back in the day, like when you were in Vicious Rumors, I'm just kind of curious. Would you say, Dave, you're more kind of like a band guy in the sense that you like being involved in a band like that, where it's everybody's kind of contributing, where it doesn't all fall on you, as you would say, like maybe in WildStarr?
Do I prefer one or the other?
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, if you had the choice between like let's say, continuing on a band with WildStarr where a lot of the stuff falls on you versus being in a band where, maybe you're playing with another guitar player and there's 3 or 4 of the guys in the band and everybody contributes and to the writing and stuff? I mean, do you have a preference?
Well, the VR was a really special band where you had 5 really talented people writing great music, and we were a great live band. Bands like that just don't come along very often, and it was a special time in my life. It was a special band. I have lots of fond memories of that stuff. It just got to the point with WildStarr where when we first started this thing out, we were initially going to have a traditional. Sorry about that, my dog.
That's all right. That's all right. No worries.
We were going to have more of a traditional band, but I just had a trouble trying to find people who were on the same page as we were. It's tough to find people that you can trust, and just to make a long story short, I ended up just morphing into this kind of one-man band kind of thing where I just ended up writing all the music and playing all the guitars and bass myself. Do I enjoy it? Yeah, but it is very taxing mentally, and it's not easy to have people not have somebody to bounce ideas off of. I have to bounce them off myself. So it was kind of one of the cool things that was playing with Ed was because for all these years I haven't really played with anybody else except basically London and Josh.
And so London, like you said, London is your wife, so she's kind of your better half. So you kind of already, you guys got that chemistry, and you know what to kind of expect. Where I guess even hooking with a guy like Ed, you don't have that kind of immediate chemistry. You have to kind of feel each other out and see what it's like.
Well, I think we got, and Ed can expand on this, but I think we got off to a good start with this track, especially since we haven't met each other yet.
Wow. And go ahead, Ed. Yeah.
Well, that's what was great. Because we bounced the ideas off of each other, and it just worked. We had that chemistry to make Wolf Chamber and make the track on how it was, and even cool. It was just I was really satisfied with how everything turned out because and I've said this and plenty of times is even not just as a musician but even an actor is that you gotta have an open mind. And that's what I did. I had an open mind and heard what Dave's ideas were, and then I was open to trying them out. And I think that's why we clicked so well, and that's why the track came to be what it was.
And let me ask you, in reference to this track you guys recorded together, I was curious, Dave, were you in London in the same studio recording, or was she in a separate studio recording her bass parts?
No, I did all the guitar stuff, and then she did the bass probably about, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month after I had finished all the guitars. She originally wasn't even going to do the bass, but I had somebody else in mind, but he was real busy, and I admit that I have kind of a short fuse when I'm dealing with people who don't follow through on what they say they're going to do and what they promise they're going to do and what I expect them to do. And I finally just walked into the studio one day and I said, pick up the bass. You're going to play. You want to play bass on this track? Pick up the bass. Let's do it. And she plays a little bit of bass guitar and keyboards, and it really wasn't. I think she initially went, "Wow, this would be really cool." So I just said, "Hey, let's do it," and we did, and she did it.
And see, that's got to be kind of like a new thing for you guys too. Even though you worked all these years together and you've been together as a couple, like people primarily know London as a singer, but what a cool thing. But she's going to get to go in there and kind of do her thing on the bass and kind of show people, hey, I can do this too as well.
Yeah. Well, she's got the musical side too. Whenever we don't have a lot of keyboards in WildStarr, but whenever you hear keyboards in WildStarr, she's playing the keyboard parts too.
Yeah. Oh wow. And Ed, now you mentioned that you're an actor and you got kind of your own musical thing. You got like solo albums out, or people can check out, or you got other bands that you're currently working with?
So, when the new year comes around, I want to get my band Steel Witch back to recording and doing some live shows in Los Angeles eventually. And then I'm working on a solo album right now that have some previously released songs that are going to be touched up.
Wow.
That are going to be touched up, and then they're going to have some new stuff that I haven't put out yet as well. And but then eventually once I have that out, I'm going to immediately start working on a second album and working on stuff at Steel Witch, and then also maybe writing up some more future material for Wolf Chamber as well. And then, of course, doing stuff with acting as well.
Yeah. And now, you guys, we're still early in the game as far as Wolf Chamber goes, but have you ever discussed the possibility, like, if we ever get enough material together, that let's consider doing, like, maybe, a live show or something, or has there been any talk of that even?
I'm open to it, as long as, everybody would be on board, of course.
Yeah, and of course, so, you guys got your different musical backgrounds, and now if there was to be like a Wolf Chamber tour or something down the line, being that this is the project you guys are kind of focusing on, do you think you'd primarily be playing just Wolf Chamber music, or would you throw in any of the other music you've done throughout your career, or do you like to just strictly focus on Wolf Chamber?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know.
I'd be open to play other material that all of us have written, as long as we're all, as long as we all agreed on.
Yeah. And of course, I know you guys, being the musicians you are, people always love to, especially if you got that creative knack and you're a pretty good songwriter, you want to write your own original stuff, because that's really where the money's at. But have you guys ever thought about, like, how do you feel about covering other people's music? Like, would you ever consider, like, let's say if there was a Wolf Chamber album down the line, maybe like putting cover on the album or something, or would you rather just stick with the original material?
Ed, if we do something, we should do a Road Nail song.
Oh, that would be...
I wouldn't mind doing something like Dress Incognito, or Dress Incognito, or what's the other one? Look Out. I think I'd like to do one of those. I think Jim would like that, actually.
And now that would be a great move, Ed, covering your own material, because obviously you're a writer, you're a performer, but all the money would go right back into your pocket, and then you'd have the legendary Dave Starr doing his lead guitar thing, on the track.
Like we definitely isn't the end of a Wolf Chamber. It's definitely not. Well, let me rephrase that. Yeah. It's definitely not the first and the last you'll hear of Wolf Chamber. Yeah. We'll definitely work on some stuff down the road. I mean, there's no question about that.
Now, I read an online interview. I think you'd done. I forget where it was, but I was reading something that was on your Facebook page the other day, Ed, and it was talking about how you came up with the name for this project, Wolf Chamber. Do you mind sharing that with the people listening to this?
So I think I just had this name floating around in my head, and it's actually a funny story that attaches to it. And so I don't remember how I got it. I think I just I did have a fascination with wolves. Yeah.
Well, I read something to the effect that you had done something on Halloween, wore a costume or something that was related to it, and do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, no, I did like werewolf movies and all that, and of course horror movies, which kind of gets into the story of how I wrote Forest of Darkness as well.
Yeah.
And then also the funny thing to that is, with the title of Wolf Chamber, I just kind of threw it out to Dave, and I was like, "What do you think of it?" And he's like, "I like it. I'll forward it to London and see what she thinks." And she likes it.
Well, I'll say this. It's it's unique, it's original, which is what I like about it. Because a lot of you guys, when I interview over years, they've told me that's the hardest thing when you're forming a new band is to come up with a band name. And I almost guarantee if you look up Wolf Chamber, there's probably nobody else with that name. And it kind of leaves people with their head kind of scratched. Wolf Chamber, that's kind of interesting. I wonder why they called it that, you know?
Yeah, I think I did I couldn't find any other. I did a Google search on Wolf Chamber. I couldn't find any other bands with the name. So I think we got one that was good.
Yeah. So let me ask you. You're saying you're a bit of a horror movie fan. Did you ever watch any of those classic like Universal horror movies from back in the day? Like the classic Dracula, Frankenstein.
Absolutely, and it's actually it's funny that you mentioned that because that is actually where I got some inspiration from writing Forest of Darkness was the Universal monsters, actually.
Oh, wow.
So getting into that story,
yeah.
I had my first inspiration of writing Forest of Darkness was from Friday the 13th, because, pretty much all those movies take place in a camp forest.
Yeah.
So, but then I just didn't want it to be about a serial killer, because I already have lyrics written for another song about a serial killer.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to expand the boundaries a bit and make this maybe like a forest about more than just one specific monster, make it about a bunch of them. I had the Universal monsters in mind, which is where I had mentioned werewolves, vampires, and witches and all that stuff. Yeah. And I thought I could write a song about something that would be every single person's worst nightmares, just constantly being on the run from every single nightmare you can think of in the forest.
Now, Ed, combining your love for music and horror, I was kind of curious. Have you ever toyed with the idea of either making like music videos for some of the songs and kind of make them like into little like mini movies, or even like maybe writing a kind of a horror script based around maybe some of your songs and kind of combining the two?
I definitely want to. I definitely want to do something like that, down the road, like do something very horror-based in a music video.
Yeah.
And also, I already have been pre-casted for a remake of a 1980s heavy metal horror movie. I can't say what yet until I'm greenlit.
Well, I'll tell you, Ed, just between you and me, I'm kind of interested to learn more about that. So when you get the green light for that, if you want to do another interview to specifically talk about that, I'd be more than happy to do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And once I'm given the okay to release details about it and everything's a go, I will definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and so Dave, for the rest of you said maybe between now and June you'll be working on the new WildStarr album. And do you have anything else going on currently?
Just musically, that's pretty much going to be taking up a lot of the time in this coming year. Yeah. I've been spending the last WildStarr album, Beyond the Rain, came out 2 years ago, and since then I've just been writing. That's how I work. I just write after we release each album, and I spend a couple years writing, and then we spend about a year in the studio. So once we get through the holiday season, come January, I really want to put the pedal to the metal and get this thing going for a late 2020 release. And just living the good life out here in Texas. It's pretty quiet. Yeah. I've been doing my other stuff, investing in real estate, and I have my Starr Guitar Systems company.
And what is that exactly, Starr Guitars? Is that where you just sell, you build your guitars and sell them to other musicians, or what exactly are we talking about? I do high-end electronic upgrade component systems for guitar and bass. Wow.
And so I own several companies, and that's how musicians really have to survive in this day and age.
Yeah.
Very few musicians in the age of the internet, it's the blessing of the curse, can survive on revenue coming from music. It's just next to impossible. Yeah. So diversification is the name of the game, and be able to stay alive. And I've started dabbling in real estate when we got out here in London. I bought a bunch of property up on Lake Conroe, so we own a bunch of houses up there. That's about 15 miles away from here. So we've got a bunch of rental income properties that we own. So it's kind of interesting being we're investing in real estate and owning my other business, Starr Guitar Systems, that I run from the workshop here at home and the recording studios here. And so, I mean, every day is just, I'm working 10, 12 hours a day doing whatever, music, real estate, Starr Guitar Systems. It's good to be alive and it's good to be busy.
Now, you don't mind me asking, Dave, what as far as like social media, I know you're on Facebook and that, but I was curious, is that kind of what your first encounter with social media? Because the reason I ask is I have a friend, there's this guy I know in a band, and he was telling me, like I actually met him, if you can believe it, back in the day on MySpace. And he was telling me the other day that he says, here's a funny thing, and this guy, he's not really in a major band, but if you're like a Facebook user, you'll have heard of this band. But anyways, he was telling me back when I was on MySpace, he was saying the band, he goes, we were always able to get gigs, we were always out touring a lot more than we are these days. Just he said, we didn't even need a record label. We were able to put he said you can still do it there. He said, but the thing with Facebook, he says Facebook tries to kind of control like everything. Like if you're making any money off of Facebook, they want a little piece of it too and stuff. And he was telling me it's funny. MySpace has kind of turned into a graveyard. It's not what it once was, but Facebook is great because it promotes you and gets your stuff out there. But they want a little more piece of the pie as opposed to like what MySpace was about back in the day.
Well, I think MySpace was in the earlier days of the internet before Facebook. MySpace was really cool back in the day. I liked the format that they had, but and they weren't charging for boosting posts or promoting your stuff. It was just anything goes. And Facebook does seem a lot more controlling, a lot more limiting and restrictions on it than MySpace ever used to be. But I don't know.
It is what it is. I mean, I like Facebook. Don't get me wrong, because that's how I've hooked up with guys like you and stuff over years, and it's a great place to make connections. I think the mistake like MySpace made was they tried to kind of change their format and try to be just like Facebook, whereas they should have stayed more true and original to what they were all about.
I liked MySpace when they changed and gave themselves a big makeover, trying to compete with Facebook, and I think that's where they screwed up. I think when MySpace was the king, it was really cool, and they screwed it up. Now I look at MySpace and nothing even makes any sense.
No, that's why the format looks all, I can't even get on my
whacked out.
I can't even get on my site. Somebody's telling me it literally is like a graveyard. I mean, I can't even find my site anymore. A lot of the stuff I posted, it's just not on there. It's like it became like a place where people kind of post their pictures and but Facebook is Facebook's kind of where we're at right now, and so it works. Like I said, it's how like I'm able to reach out to guys like you and that and kind of create a little network of friends. So it's great for that, I think.
Yeah, well, Facebook is cool. That's how Ed and I hooked up. That's how I hooked up with a lot of people, and all those things, opportunities never, it's the blessing and curse of the internet. There's a lot of bad things that go along with the internet, but there's a lot of great things too. Ed and I did the song together without even meeting each other. So, and I talk to fans around the world almost every day. Interact with people. So it's a beautiful thing. It just has an ugly dark side too, just like anything else.
And on that note, Dave, you're a guy that with a little bit of a following, because like we said, you come from WildStar and Vicious Rumors, and people know you from that stuff. Do you ever get any crazy people hassling you online, or people have been pretty cool to you so far? To be honest with you, the only problems I've ever had
I won't say they're problems because I don't let them to be problems.
Yeah,
but you know, Larry Howe, my old drummer from Vicious Rumors, used to hound me incessantly on Facebook about things I might say or reference to the current versions of VR.
Okay.
To where he would just become a real obnoxious a-hole, but I would never respond to anything.
Yeah, that's
that he would post.
That's cool on your part. That's cool on your part. The only thing I'll say is I would
do screen captures of things that he would he would say just to use for in case it ever got to that point. But the only problem it's sad to say the only problem I ever had was with somebody I used to play with.
Wow, that's sad.
And that's the thing, you know, even me as well. I've dealt with stalkers. I've dealt with haters. You know, because I mean that's the thing. Like when people see that you're doing well with something, you know, jealousy. I'll say this: jealousy is it exists. You know, I mean. There's people out there that want to see you fall, but when they see you rising to the top, it makes them angry. So they try to attack you at the legs.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys. I'll tell you guys a funny story before we wrap this up. I know this guy that plays in it's out of Arizona. He plays in a Motley Crue tribute band, and he was telling me when they first started playing the Motley Crue movie The Dirt on Netflix, because some people have seen him in the Motley Crue tribute, and he looks so much like Vince Neil. They watch the movie and they say, "Oh no, we know you're really Vince, and how could you kill Razzle and all this stuff?" And he's like, "No, I'm not Vince. I play in a tribute. No, you're Vince Neil. You're just trying to change your name, man. How could you kill Razzle? You should have done more than 30 days in jail." He's like, "No, I am not Vince Neil. Thank you very much." You know, just funny stuff like, and then you know. Again, before we wrap this up, I want to say, Ed, like I said, I've interviewed Dave a few times, so I kind of know him a little bit. It's great getting to know you. You seem like a really cool guy. And being that you and Dave have never met, like, do you guys, you plan to, like, eventually meet in person, or are you kind of scared to do so, if you know what I mean?
Well, you know, it's the thing, you know, I'm not somebody that likes to go after people, like beef, you know. I'm one of those people I like to have an open mind. I like to collaborate with other people who are like-minded. And so, you know, all I can say is that if anybody has any sort of, you know, issue with anything, you know, I guess all I'd have to say is that that's their problem.
No, I guess what I'm asking is, like, okay, like it seems just the two of you guys together talking on the phone. Seems like you have a great chemistry. You know, Dave kind of rearranged one of your songs, and you guys got this great new version of it out. And I guess my point is, it'd be cool if you guys could do some more music, like you're possibly talking about. But have you ever thought about, hey, let's you know, Dave, Ed, let's get together and let's meet in person, and or what do you think that would be like to actually come face to face with each other?
Yeah, I'm all for that. The only problem is that we're not down the street from each other. We're 20 or 2,000 miles apart. But you know, everything has to start somewhere, and we started. You know, we reached out to each other on Facebook. We ended up doing this song together. And I went through the same thing with back when I played in Chastain, and I did the In and Outrage album with David Chastain back in 2004. I didn't even meet him. I recorded all the bass tracks for that album and never even met him until the album was out. He came out to do the video for Bullet from a Gun, and that's when we first met. And that's the only time that we met. Oh no, there was one other time when we did photos together. So I've only met David Chastain twice.
I think that's very cool that people can have such great chemistry, and you know they've only talked over phone, we never really met face to face. But that just, I think, also speaks volumes about how talented you guys are as musicians. You know, and then you bring your talent together, and this is what we get.
Yeah, well, it's really cool. One of the interesting things about working with Ed is there's a huge age difference, 30+ years between me and him. No secret here. I'm the older one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't diminish our love for rock and roll and making loud music and horror movies and all those kind of things that we have in common. So,
and you know, like that's a thing, because I had mentioned this before as well. You know, Dave being a part of you know, coming out of the movement, heavy metal movement from the '80s, you know, collaborating with somebody who's a part of you know, I would say the newest movement of heavy metal. You know, it's like one generation working with another generation to like pass it down to the other. You know, that's the thing is we need a lot more new. We need more new coming acts to carry the torches of the rock and roll heavy metal genre.
And Ed, here's a great thing about a guy like Dave. As you said, he's part of a movement back in the day. He's still part of a movement. He never really left. And kind of the thing I love about, you know, Dave's story is, like I said, he never really left, but he is constantly creating, you know, new music and getting involved with new projects, as opposed to a lot of these established guys who are like, you know what, people aren't buying CDs anymore. I'm just going to live on my catalog music. I'm not going to bother writing or recording any new music. So he is still staying relevant, which I think is cool, as opposed to just kind of living off of his past.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, that's what you got to do. You know, when you work on one other project, you keep moving forward, you know.
Yeah. And Dave, if you don't mind me getting a little personal, not too long ago, I was reading something online where you were kind of talking about, you know, back in the day, how you were kind of struggling with your, you know, sobriety, but you kind of come full circle, and that's no longer an issue for you. So I was just kind of curious, as like, if you were to return to the road, is that something that you'd be concerned about?
It's probably one of the reasons why I stayed away from touring, and I hardly even venture into clubs or anything anymore. I used to live in that environment, and had a lot of fun and a lot of crazy times, but I just kind of had a near-death experience 15 years ago that almost 15 years ago, or about 15 years ago, that led me to getting clean and sober. And I've just had a lot of great things that have happened in my life since I changed directions. I'm 10 times the musician I used to be, 10 times a songwriter. I get more done every day, and I go to bed early, I get up early. Life has just never been better, and I'm real happy kind of leading a pretty much quiet, you know, no drama existence.
And good for you. Sometimes it takes that, you know. Sometimes it takes.
But I don't begrudge people who drink. You know, I go out to dinner with my sister who lives here in town, and her fiance both, you know, have a beer or drink. It doesn't bother me. People drinking in front of me. I just know that I just had to make a change for myself, so I can't really speak for other people. I just knew that I had a situation that was pretty bad and getting worse, and just put a stop to it. And a lot of great things have come out of that change in my life. If I ever go back out on the road, would it be a concern?
You don't know, but
I don't know if I'd want to be sitting on a tour bus with 6 other people who are all drinking and doing drugs. I mean, it would probably, you know, wouldn't make me too happy. But I'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Don't worry about that with me, though.
I apologize for getting a little too personal, but I just want to touch base on that, because I was kind of thinking, is that why, like, a lot of stuff you've been doing, like, the last couple of years is just putting out these great records? Because I was kind of just curious, like, do you miss touring, or would, like, if you were to do some more tracks with Ed, would you even ever consider doing like a one-off show or something?
I think if I didn't do all those hundreds of shows around the world with VR, then maybe I would feel like I missed out on something. But I played in something like I played in something like 25 different countries.
Oh wow!
Did hundreds of shows. Did some huge festivals, like 15,000, 20,000 people. So I can look back on it and say it was a lot of fun, and it was a great experience. But you know, maybe if VR would have stuck, if the 5 of us would have stuck together, and we wouldn't have had all these problems that ended up breaking the band apart, you know, maybe we would have gotten at that level, and we would have still been on tour to this day, but most of it, more often than not, bands just don't last for a variety of reasons.
Yeah. Well,
but VR didn't last, but it opened up a lot of other doors for me. And getting clean and sober is how WildStarr came about, because I used the guitar as part of my rehab.
Wow.
Started writing all this stuff with London. So, do I miss it? Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I'll look back at pictures, but I also have no regrets about the decisions I've made in my life to lead a really peaceful. A lot of people, get on my case, or they say, Dave, don't you want to go tour? I really wish you would tour with WildStarr and this and that. But I'm really happy at this stage in my life, and I don't need to apologize or have any regrets about it.
It's your life, and that's the thing. You don't want to have any regrets at the end of the day. And see, as I was telling Ed, the David K. Starr story is not over at this point, and only you can decide when it is. And I got huge amounts of respect that you're able to put the bottle down on that, because even a guy like Zach Wilde, he was a massive alcoholic for years, and what actually scared him to go sober was a couple years ago, or maybe about 10 years ago now, he was getting all these blood clots, and they said, you're very close to dying, and I guess that kind of scared the bejesus out of him, and he kind of gave it up. But see, it's a great thing that you can do that, and and I could understand, like you said, I've done those things. I've kind of checked that off my list. I had the opportunity to go out there and tour. I did that. This is what I want to be doing now. And again, it's all about what makes you happy.
Yeah, it's the cool thing is I did all that stuff.
Yeah.
but during that all time I was doing all that stuff, I was flat broke. We were all broke. None of us had any money.
Yeah.
Even when we were signed to Atlantic, we never had any money.
Yeah.
And whenever we get done touring, I'd have to go back to my guitar shop and keep wrenching on guitars. And everybody, Mark worked in a record store. We all just had to. Carl was a bar back at a nightclub in Oakland. We were living. On one hand, we were living the dream. On the other hand, we were all starving. We were literally the definition of starving artists. We had no money.
Yeah.
And now I'm making the best music of my career, but I also happen to have money, and I have a beautiful home and a beautiful wife, and a bunch of dogs, and a bunch of property. And I remember Mike Varney was telling me one day when I was talking to him about this. He said to me, this was about a year or two ago. He said, Dave, he goes, damn. He goes, I know guys with platinum albums on their wall who don't have things as good as you do. Oh,
that's true. I'll tell you a funny story. The guys in Warren. God may Janie Lane rest in peace, but he, back in the day, he was a primary songwriter. He wrote all those hit songs that are all over MTV, and I guess Janie's family kind of allows the guys to go out there and tour as Warren, and they're able to kind of make a living off of it. But again, this is a band that was all over MTV. They had #1 hits. They were platinum. They were huge, and now they're able to still go out and tour. They don't go on national, huge world tours like they used to, but they're able to make a living doing what they do. And at the same time, a lot of those guys, because they're not making the money they once were, they have weekend jobs, or they have jobs during the week, and then they go and do these weekend gigs, and that's how a lot of these 80 bands are doing it these days.
You got to do what you got to do.
But and there's no shame in that. Like you said, you're able to kind of live a rock and roll dream, and then you do whatever you got to do to make it happen.
No, another way I look at it is that I'm from that whole era back there. I'm a survivor. I know I'd have to sit down with a pencil and paper and write down. I've lost a lot of friends who died along the way from substance abuse, musicians, substance abuse related deaths or suicides, or it's a rough way to make a living. But there's something that draws us to the music and the limelight, and I caught the bug on it. Got the bug for it when I was about 16 or 17, and haven't really looked back. I just chose a different path. I didn't want to be doing the same thing every day for the rest of my life. Now, maybe if VR got big like it should have gotten big, and we all stayed together, then maybe maybe
your path would have been different. Yeah.
My attitude would be different. But you got to go with the flow, and you got to roll with the changes, and you have to learn how to adapt and change and change with the times. And that's basically what I did. I just kind of reinvented myself as a studio musician and a real estate investor, a business owner, and I'm real happy, and I have no regrets. But I want Ed to go out and experience all those things that I did, because it was a great time in my life. And I hope Ed gets to experience all those things that I did.
And on that,
absolutely.
And on that note, Ed, let me ask you, because again, you worked for legendary David K. Starr on this track, and you get a little bit of I guess, notoriety. People are checking out the track, and that's great. And kind of what we were talking about, the power of internet earlier. I mean, see, that's a great thing. That's one thing I do like about the internet is, you guys aren't even really just record one track so far. People are checking it out. Whereas if it wasn't for the internet, and it wasn't for the fact that David K. Starr is featured on the track and his lovely wife, people might not be checking it out, or you don't have a record company behind you. But that's the cool thing about the internet. A little independent guy like you can kind of get a little bit of a fan base, putting your stuff out on the internet. And there's probably places in the world, Ed, where you haven't even stepped foot in, and people are checking the track out. Just think about that for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just what I'm constantly trying to do, is just constantly expand, and always my name out there. And I hope that the right people will come along, and it'll get me to another step in the direction that I'm heading towards, and that I'm working towards getting as well.
Yeah, and
I don't find it.
And I think the cool thing, I think the cool thing for you, Ed, too, is people are going to start checking your stuff out more and more. And see,
I hope so.
And the thing about it is, okay, it'd be great to have a huge record company behind you, but let's be honest, a lot of bands, it's like, what's a record deal? They don't even know what a record company is these days, because a lot of bands don't even have it. But and the thing is, when you're an independent artist, who the hell is going to promote your music better than you? I mean, if you were signed to a big record label, they might say, you know what, Ed, your album hasn't been selling. If it doesn't start selling, we're going to drop you next week. Bye-bye. Whereas when you're promoting your own stuff, you got more passion to promote it than some guy in a suit.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing. Most, especially like with record companies now these days, because most of it's streaming now these days. But I will say that I think another positive step with music today is that vinyl. Surprisingly, apparently vinyl outsold CDs within the past year. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Vinyl's making such a comeback. I mean, I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's telling me, he's just discovering like vinyl. He's like, you guys, you know what? I don't even have a record player, but to play this stuff on. But I'm just kind of collecting these vinyls as I get them, just because they're for a collector's item thing.
Well, that's the thing. Nostalgia is liked by a lot of people. People love nostalgia, especially like stuff that came out of like the 70s, the 80s. Yeah. I mean, that's why you have a lot of movies and TV shows that are taking place in the 80s and the 70s, because they were very special eras, especially for music and movies.
Yeah. See, me and Dave are like old school guys. We kind of come from the same era, but I love back in the day. I still love getting physical CDs and checking out the artwork and seeing who wrote the music and who the guest stars are and all that stuff. Checking out the artwork. I mean, that's you gotta think that's why a band like Iron Maiden. That's part of the reason they became so huge. Not even because as great as their music is. I mean, a lot of people. I remember when I was growing up, you go in the record store and I didn't know who the hell Iron Maiden was back in the day. I picked up the album for A Number of a Beast. Oh man, the band's not even on the cover of their album, but it's like, what the hell is this thing? Talking about Eddie, and then they have that great mascot that looks different on every single album cover. That's how they market the band. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do with album artwork. But a lot of people these days, they don't have an appreciation for that. They just want everything right here, right now. A lot of people will be like, I don't even want the whole album. I'll just buy the single for 99 cents.
And so that's why a lot of musicians, especially today, they put out singles, because you know, I mean, like, yeah, they still put out albums and all that, but, you know, there's always, people are going to always, you know, nitpick at certain songs in an album, but, you know, I mean, and, you know, I'll admit I'm guilty of that at times, but then again, there are some albums I can sit and listen to from start to finish.
But see, then again, you come from a different time, and so that kind of makes sense. And but see, you make a good point too, because back in the day when me and Dave were growing up, all the great bands we grew up on, it'd be like a Michael Jackson album in the sense that there wasn't just one great track; that the whole album, you know, was great. Yeah, and now we're going to get ready to wrap this up because I know you guys are very busy and it's getting late where you are. But let me ask you, since we're getting to know you a little more today, you know, for the first time, we know you're an actor and you're a musician, but talk about some of the bands or the musicians that influenced you.
Well, Vicious Rumors obviously being one, you know. I remember when I first heard All Albert's voice, I was just like, holy fucking shit. This is like, and I think like just like how most bands are discovered. I think I discovered it on YouTube some years back. Yeah. And like I've even told Dave some of the music of Vicious Rumors got me through some bumpy roads in my life.
Wow.
But like obviously, but other bands that influenced me were like, you know, bands like Wasp, Iron Maiden, Kiss, AC/DC. Yeah. And I was, as a guitar player, I was heavily influenced by like Ace Frehley, and, you know, even Adrian Smith and Dave Murray.
Oh wow!
And then even as a singer, I was heavily influenced by, you know, Rob Halford, Bruce Dickinson, Paul Di'Anno. You know, a lot of the 80s bands. Yeah.
Now it's funny you mentioned Rob Halford. You know, he the screaming vocalist from. You know, Judas Priest, he put out this Christmas Soul album. It's pretty fun album. Not what you typically would expect of him, but it's fun. And also, speaking of Rob Halford, I know Dave knows this. You may or may not be aware of this, Ed, but do you realize that you share the same publicist as Rob Halford and Judas Priest?
Yes, I do. And I just have to say, it's I don't know. I'm still at this book. I don't know. It's kind of... It's just like, I'm like, holy shit, how did that happen, you know?
So you know, you are moving up in the world.
And that's the thing. And, you know, honestly, I've never had a chance to meet Rob Halford, you know, but I honestly, it's definitely a dream of mine to have a chance to collaborate with him on a song one of these days.
Yeah, but I'll tell you guys,
that's for sure.
I'll tell you this right before we wrap this up. You guys got a great publicist. I don't know if you ever met Chip Face. I've never had the pleasure, but he's gotten me a lot of great interviews like this over the years. So I'm very thankful. But I mean, like he also he represents great guys like Michael Schenker. He had me interview one of his artists the other day. This up and coming band. They're called Chase Eagles and Night Shift. Now it's kind of like just imagine for a minute. It's kind of like Saturday Night Fever, rockified. You know, it's just they got a real original thing going. So Chip also, besides working with legendary artists, he's got a knack for finding these artists to represent. That he's got just a great eye for seeing these bands. They got huge potential. So I just want to say you got great people that are working with you. You got great people behind you. So I think you're off to a great start, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
Chip's a good guy. You know, he started working with Starr. It was a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Michael Fisher, who had our first CD, and I knew him from the VR days, and he was doing something, I think, with Accept, and Accept was working with Chip, and he sent Chip the Arrival CD, our first CD, and Chip loved it, and that's how the whole thing began, with working with Chipster. So it's pretty cool. He's really been a great asset for WildStar, and now helping out Wolf Chamber, helping us get spread the word around the globe.
Yeah, and Dave, this is the final question for you tonight, and we will wrap this up. I was curious, as great of a guitar player, who was kind of the main? I probably have more than once, but who would you say was the main kind of guitar hero you had that really inspired you to do what you're doing?
Well, boy, that's a loaded question. You know, I'm not one of these guitar players that really worshipped other guitar players, and somebody would say like, oh yeah, I'm a huge Schenker fan, and I know every Schenker lick and every guitar solo.
Yeah.
I really did not go that route. I was sort of just influenced by bands and just the overall band sound and the songwriting.
Yeah.
But Kiss was the band that put the guitar in my hand.
Wow.
Okay. And the bass in my hand. A friend gave me Loan Me Kiss Live back in '76, and I had not really heard them before. And he said, "You got to check these guys out." I was just blown away. So that's where it all started. And then I got into Thin Lizzy and Judas Priest. So those are the three main bands that have been an influence on me. So all the guitar players, Brian Robertson, Scott Gorham, and Thin Lizzy, John Sykes, Gary Moore, all those guys, Ace and Paul and Gene, and
wow. Let me ask
KK and Glenn and Ian and Rob and everybody who's been in Judas Priest. But I love other stuff too, like Blue Oyster Cult and UFO, Saxon, just all the great classic metal rock, Aerosmith, Bad Company, you name it. It all just kind of swirls around in my head and ends up spinning out of whatever the hell
I'm a huge Kiss fan myself, but I gotta tell you, I got love for all those other bands you mentioned. But the thing I always loved about Thin Lizzy, they're a band that even to this day, they're finally maybe going to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're finally getting some love. But the thing I always loved about Thin Lizzy is Grava, frontman and singer. Phil Lynott was. He was like one of the first really bass players that was really a showman. A lot of times bass players just kind of stand in the backstage, they don't do much, but he was kind of one of the first ultimate bass heroes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he was a one of a kind, and it's just so sad the way his life ended. But he did a hell of a lot in a very short amount of time. I think he was only 34 or 35 when he passed away.
Something like that.
But he was a huge legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well.
And he's still mentioned in this day and age. All those bit about influenced by and listening to him. And I was lucky enough to see him one time with Thin Lizzy. I think it was on the Chinatown or Renegade tour. I can't remember. I think it was Chinatown in San Francisco in 1980. So I'll never forget it.
Now, you mentioned John Sykes. I was curious. Did you ever get a chance to hear what John Sykes did when he was in Thin Lizzy? Did you ever get a chance to hearing that stuff? And what are your thoughts on it?
The Thunder and Lightning stuff?
Yeah, Thunder and Lightning. I mean that kind of even predates his time in Whitesnake, but I thought
it's a great album. The production I think is kind of sucky on it. It's real. I don't like the production on that album, but the songwriting is cool, and there's definitely lots of great videos from those final shows that they did on that '83 tour. There's lots of great stuff you can see on YouTube. And I did see him when he did that '97 U.S. tour with Scott Gorham and Brian Downey and Darren Warden and Mark Mendoza on bass. Got to meet him and Scott and everybody. It was pretty cool. It was a tribute to Fiddle Lynott. Saw him in a club in San Francisco, South San Francisco, with about 500 people there. It was kind of like magic.
Well,
it was pretty cool.
Wow. Well, Dave, as always, it's been fun talking to you again, and it's you're always a blast to talk to. And I just want to say, when the WildStarr album does come out, please reach out to me, and we'll do this again. And same thing with you, Ed. Just we'll keep in touch, and anything and all you have to promote, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to help you with promote anything you got going. And as far as this interview, probably get posted maybe in a week or two after the holidays. As soon as it goes up, I'll be sure to let you guys and Chip know, and you're more than welcome to post it on any of your sites, and that's cool with us.
Yeah, we'll promote it as soon as we know where it's at. Just let us know, and we'll blast it on the internet everywhere we can.
We'll do it. Thanks again.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks again, Ed and Dave, and we'll be talking down the line. Thanks so much. Best of luck to you guys with whatever you're working on. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, Jason. I appreciate it, Jason. Take care.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Okay, Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.